You're listening to Don't Take This Personally,
a podcast about the business of creativity.
We are your hosts, wedding photographers, entrepreneurs, and friends, Cami Oliveria
And Gabe Conover. Now let's get into it.
Let's get into it. And don't take it personally, whatever we're about to say.
Yes.
Don't. Do not take this personally.
Hello.
Hello, are we recording already?
We are recording.
Wow, what a soft start.
We're trying to, chill out a little bit.
Are
Just
we?
kidding.
What?
I'm kidding.
Like,
It was a joke.
Yeah, that's a bad joke. I was trying to chill out. Come on.
It doesn't exist. Well, once again today you have Cami and Gabe, just the two of us.
Just the two of us in the pod loft.
In the what?
In the pod loft.
The pod loft. Okay. Yes, just the two of us in the pod loft.
Just the two of us in the pod loft.
We're excited to catch up with you guys and talk about something new.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to read a review first.
Okay.
One that I have no idea if I've read or not.
Seems to be the pattern.
That's
every
the
week.
pattern. But it's quick. Love their approach. 5 stars from Ashtay. Only a few episodes in and they have me hooked. Love their spunky personalities and know how to keep it lighthearted. Look forward to listening more.
You've definitely read that one before.
Okay. All right.
That's okay. It's okay.
I'm going to try one more.
Okay.
Love. Found the perfect podcast for ...
Me. My dog.
Found the
My
perfect
mom.
podcast for what? For losers?
No.
For winners?
It's not losers.
But 5 stars, so
Yes.
it's probably something nice.
Yes.
And okay, so they said K Snowflake 1226 says,
Aww.
I love this podcast. I was so excited when I saw Gabe and Cami were doing this. Even as someone who has known them both personally and professionally, there were so many insights that they helped me realize what I should be doing and helped me put a name to a feeling I had. It has been so much fun. I've tried a lot of photo podcasts, and often I find them to be unrelatable, either because the photographer is far removed from shooting weddings and is really more of a business coach. I think I know the one they're talking about. Or because they aren't geared towards the wedding industry, which is so unique. So this podcast has accomplished something no others have done.
Aww.
Plus, I just love their dynamic. I laugh every time because they just own who they are, and I can promise you that you're getting exactly... Wait, let me try the sentence again. I'm not wearing my glasses, so I'm doing my best. So, okay. I laugh every time because they just own who they are, and I can promise that what you are getting from them on this podcast is exactly who they are in person. And it makes me want to hang out with them. Gah! Love this. Literally eagerly wait for each new episode. XX.
Which one is X? Is X hug or kiss?
Kiss.
Aww. Right, because O is
Whoever
like
you
you're
are,
giving
gladly.
a hug. Like
Yeah.
you're putting your arms around someone.
Yeah, that checks out.
Okay.
That checks out. Yeah. Oops, didn't start a timer. That's how this is gonna go. Okay, so we're very excited about what we're talking about today.
Yes.
Because Gabe, why don't you tell them?
Yeah, so obviously I've talked about it before in the podcast, but I'm branching into a new industry, so I thought it would be really valuable for us to talk about what it looks like, some good steps to take when you're entering into a totally different industry that you're not super familiar with. And even though the fashion industry, if you didn't know, I'm heading into fashion, is still in the creative industry, it's obviously very different from wedding photography and like photography in general.
Well, and I was excited to talk about this because so many people I know are like transitioning out of the wedding industry, or
Great
just
point.
pivoting in general, or just like adding to their business or whatever. So I just think this is a really interesting time to do this. Like so many people I know are like transitioning into something new.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be really valuable.
Yeah, totally. And I think that we both have a lot of value to add to this because, first of all, you've taken your business from Washington to here And even though it was the same business, it really probably felt like a new business because it was a totally different clientele.
And the market was so different.
Right. So you weren't necessarily learning a new skill, but you were just, putting yourself out there again.
Totally.
Which was just a culture shock for you. And then also for me, like I went into this, I went into wedding photography very impulsively too. So like I went from nothing to having a successful wedding photography business pretty quickly, and that's because I like really put myself into this new industry and like was really aggressive really quickly.
Yeah,
just like you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope
this is not your first time doing something like this.
No.
Yeah. Here you go again.
I'm not an industry hopping virgin.
Yeah. No, you are not.
No.
You have popped your cherry on that long ago.
Indeed. So I have a little bit more skill than the others. So.
Whoa.
Anyway.
Whoa, naughty. If I took that the way you meant that.
I don't know how I meant it.
Inappropriate.
Anyway, so yeah, I just thought it'd be good for, I guess I'll just kind of go over some things that I've been focusing on.
Yeah, where do you start?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I mean, and like I've said in the past too, like I have been allowing myself to kind of take it more slowly this time because I'm in a financial place where I can do that. Mm-hmm. I'm very blessed. So like I'm like, for the first time in 5 years, like giving myself a break for the most part.
I've been amazed at how like free you've been lately.
Oh, I'm so free.
It is fascinating.
Isn't it?
Like, I'm just used to asking you to do something or asking if we could move something, and the answer is no, because it's like, dude, I'm busy, I'm booked, I'm doing this, whatever. And like, I swear every time I've asked if you can do something, if you can come to something or move a meeting or something, it's like, I'm free. I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean you're free?
Dude, it's really weird. It's
crazy.
Really weird. It's been so nice
Good
and
for
relaxing.
You.
Yeah. Like I have a wedding like coming up in at the Ace Hotel in Palm Springs in like a month. Oh, it's next month. And
you don't have a wedding till then?
No. I have a couple.
Oh, okay.
No. But I have one coming up, and I like booked a couple nights at the Ace because.
Oh, yes.
Why not?
Yes, good.
Good. So yeah, I've been taking my time, but I am definitely like putting in the steps right now, in a few very specific and strategic ways, and then looking forward, I also kind of know what I'm gonna do. I would say the first thing that I would tell anyone, no matter what industry you're getting into, is just about the power of networking and like learning. Like I'm going into this fashion industry, like yes, I know like people in fashion, I guess, not necessarily in the type of fashion I'm looking to get into though.
Right.
And yes, those people can be valuable, and so like I will like go out of my way to have conversations with them and to like pick their brain maybe or whatever. Like, when I was going into it with photography in the beginning, I reached out to you and like asked to pick your brain.
You
and
sure did.
You graciously met up with me.
I did.
And we're only bitter at me for a little bit.
Only a little.
And so that's something that I think is definitely number one, is like getting yourself to a place where you can seek out those people that you either have a connection with in some way or don't have any connection with, and just like literally asking them if you can, I don't know. I guess my specific examples for this would be like, I'm going to get into vintage resale for a little bit. So I met this girl at a market that I like really vibed with, and like we got each other's info, and I was like, hey, like come to my studio. I'll do a little shoot of you. I'm going to pick your brain in a little bit. And she was like, totally. We did this like kind of swap thing, and it was cool.
So
and
you just like went up to her in a market? Oh
yeah. I mean, like I went up to her like booth in the market, and like we vibed, and we both like looked at each other's pants, and we both like pants.
Nice.
And then after that we just like talked for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, like I'm kind of like slowly getting into this, but like I'm also a photographer. And so I reached out to her on Instagram after we gave each other like info, and was like, hey, like come by, dress up, I'll do a cool shoot of you, and like and I'll just pick your brain, and like maybe you can let me shadow you at a market sometime, just because I want to know like what this is like, and if it's something I'll love or not, and whatever. So I'm kind of like dipping my toes in like a little like aspects of everything. I have a good friend who lives in Japan, and he's going to fashion school in Japan. And I like had a little FaceTime with him like a couple weeks ago, and talked to him for like an hour or two.
You
and
have a friend who's going to fashion school in Japan?
And indeed I do.
Whoa.
Yeah, isn't that dope? And it's interesting over there because like it's this prestigious fashion school, and they literally start from the beginning like sewing garments, and then go into like, fashion marketing and whatever it is. And like it's so interesting, like,
because you should know everything.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And like I obviously, I'm not in a place where I could go to fashion school at all. That's just not really feasible for me. It's too much of a commitment.
Yeah.
So that's not going to work for me, but it was cool to get some insight, like, into, like, I was just telling him what my plans were. Me not knowing anything really about what I'm going to do for sure. I know I'm going to be able to figure it out, but I haven't done too much research yet. And him just like explaining to me, like, yeah, like literally you can find these manufacturers that he's like, there's tons of them in LA, and they just hold your hand the whole time, and like they like do everything for you, and like there's no stupid questions, because this is literally what they do. They don't expect you to know how production works necessarily. I mean, again, like, I'm gonna make myself learn how production works for the most part. So because I want to treat them well, and I want to be respectful. But like, I always say this to people: you don't know what exists in an industry until you're in it. Because at weddings, I swear to God, and I'm sure you get this, every single time I'm shooting a wedding, someone comes up to me and is like, wow, man, like, your holster thing is so dope. I've never seen that before.
Literally every single wedding, someone comments on my holster, and I'm like, well, have you ever been to a wedding before?
I'm like, have you ever seen?
Every wedding photographer I know uses one.
I know.
Every single one.
It's weird. And so you're like, oh, I guess this isn't like as much of a well-known fact as it is like for everyone else as it is for us, because we actually have a need for it.
Right.
So now that like I'm like learning these things, I'm like, oh, like there are ways that it makes it a lot easier for me to carry out what I want to do. And like, yes, there's cost involved, but like I'm willing to make those sacrifices and make like the money sacrifices just to learn.
Yep.
So yeah, it's all just very interesting. I always think about that with the holster things, and I'm like, I'm sure you've seen something like this on some website before. Wink, wink.
Oh yeah, for real. Like, oh, why are you drawn to this?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, why are you pointing out this leather strap I'm holding?
Pointing out my leather straps. Hilarious. So that's kind of where you start. You've been like reaching out to people and just seeing who will talk to you. Seeing
who will talk to me, and then also like, you know, I have like my fashion, I don't want to say idols, but like the people that I think I really like got it figured out, and I can see myself following like similar paths to them. And so like I'll keep up with them, like I'll like whether it's on social media or not, and like maybe even slowly develop relationships with those people so that I can pick their brain as well.
Yeah. Are you finding people in this industry are like pretty friendly?
Yeah, I think that yes. I think that I actually, looking forward, have a lot of hope for the entertainment and the fashion industry, because I think that Gen Z just won't take any sort of discrimination or like, you know, inappropriate like actions or anything like that. They will not take it. And I think it's a really, really good thing, especially for this industry, because it's known for taking advantage of people and for like treating people poorly and judging them and like making people, you know, feel terrible about themselves all the time. For sure. So I have a lot of hope for it. And like the people that I'm seeing that I'm like more drawn to are like these younger people who are making it happen for themselves. And I'm like, I know that you're not going to be one of those people. I know that you're not going to allow that stereotype trend in this industry to like follow up with you. Yeah. So it'd be cool, like if I could be a part of that too. That'd be pretty dope.
Yeah, that's huge.
But it's really interesting. It's been really interesting to like be watching people like mostly on TikTok and like see like, yeah, like I always had this image of fashion in my mind that like it's so cutthroat and whatever, and it is cutthroat. Like don't get me wrong, but I don't think it will forever be that way based on what I'm seeing. Wow. I could be an idiot.
Like you're feeling like there's a sense that there's like room for everyone kind of a thing?
Yes. Oh, totally. Yeah. And like if you watch like runway shows, like a lot more of them are a lot more inclusive and like different types of bodies and like different looks, and like the models that I see walk, like I'm like, wow, like I feel like everyone is given a chance at this point.
Whoa, I love that.
Not perfectly. Yeah. Obviously, it's very imperfect, but like there is growth there. And I just, I really do hope that it continues.
Something that I think is cool on that note, this just reminded me, this even came to me this morning, is that I love the brand Girlfriend Collective. I like use their leggings and stuff for like my workout clothes and whatever. And they're just like known for being really good at what you're describing. And I got an email from them this morning, like showing off their new leggings. And I had the thought, oh, that's what I look like in leggings.
Oh.
And I, like it was the first time I was consciously aware of like, that's what my hips look like in leggings. And I don't think she looks bad.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was just like a really cool moment. There were
really
like all
cool.
these different body types like in leggings, and I could like see myself in one of them, and I was like, if that girl was in leggings and a crop top, I would never judge her harshly, but but why do I do that to myself? So anyways, really cool stuff.
It is true. And like even big brands are doing it, and like menswear is doing it too. Like my favorite, I don't shop at Target, and I like hate shopping at Target.
I love
Michelle
Target.
loves shopping at Target, but they have these
little tank tops from Target.
They have this pair of like workout shorts that I'm like obsessed with because it feels like you're not wearing any clothes.
Nice.
I know, it's great. And I was like, I need to order some more because I wear them almost every day to work out.
Yeah.
And I realized that the models on there were just normal looking dudes, not ripped out of their minds. And I was like, this is good. Yeah. This is a step forward. Good job, Target.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, I like that. That's been huge to just like to be able to see yourself in something and be like, whoa, that's what I look like when I wear my workout pants. So,
totally.
Anyways, that's huge.
Totally.
Cool.
Yeah. So networking is the biggest thing. And like actually having connections, you have no idea what that can do for you. Like if you meet the right person.
Where do you find them?
Everywhere. You just reach out. Like you know the people that are on, like you follow them on Instagram, you follow them on TikTok, whatever it is.
Just reach out.
Just ask them.
Oh, my phone's not on silent.
I thought that was the timer already. I was like, oh damn it.
No.
So yeah, it's a lot less scary than you think, and I think that like everyone's afraid of getting no's or being ghosted, and the reality that those things are going to happen often, and that's okay. But if you don't actually do it, like, I'm sorry, like that's just the way it works. You gotta
ask a bunch of people, and a few of them will say yes.
That's how showbiz works, you know?
Yeah.
Like everyone wants to make it big, but the only ones that do are the ones that are aggressive.
Yeah.
And like are gonna try 100 things, and only one of them will work out, maybe.
Totally.
And, like, look at them now, you know?
Totally.
That's how it works.
Dude, that's such a good reminder. I get so scared of rejection that it's like hard for me to put myself out there in that way. Like people think I'm far more outgoing than I am, because I'm like I like present so outgoing, but I'm very socially anxious and like quite introverted in a lot of ways and terrified of rejection. It's so hard for me to put myself out there, but it wasn't in the beginning of my career. This kind of goes back to like imposter syndrome stuff. Like the further along I've gotten, like the more insecure I've gotten, which is really interesting. But fuck yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think that things seem a lot more complicated from the outside until you're in it.
Yeah.
Like I look at like how, like looking back at like what I did to run a successful wedding business, I was like, you know what, like it wasn't rocket science at all. Like, and we've talked about this, like it wasn't rocket science, but like I did have to learn some things and like really perfect a craft. But like outside of that, like all of the back end business stuff, like I got other people to really take care of for me. So as long as you're good at delegating and like good at like trying things, it's not going to be as hard as you think. And so I went into this new industry like with that in mind, like, okay, like I know you don't know anything about like textiles and like fabrics and production and all this stuff, but like but I'm sure that it's going to be a lot easier than you think, because you're not expected to be the one that's running the production company that's like, you know, knows everything about all of these fabrics and stuff like that. That's not going to be my job. Right. It's the expert's job. And they're really good at it. So let them be.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that's one thing. Another thing that I think is very valuable in today's culture, no matter what type of industry you are in, is the power of like having a personal brand. And yeah, so having a personal brand, I guess if you don't really know that term, it would be like, you know, who you are. Using your own personality, using who you are and like your life circumstances to sell in the future, which when I describe it that way sounds kind of iffy and sketchy. Not sketchy, but like it sounds a little like, oh, do I just want to be like Gabe as a business person? No. And like I am authentic when it comes to like social media and stuff. Ooh, our favorite word, authentic.
I know.
That. It's not like I'm like living some lie or anything like that, or like just, you know, trying to use and abuse people, but it also is true. Like I'm trying to build a following in an industry that I don't have a following in, so that when I do end up putting stuff out there, it's a lot easier for me to sell those things.
Right.
So I'm putting a lot of effort into TikTok right now. I hired a manager.
Amazing.
Who I pay monthly to edit videos for me and give me ideas and to hold me accountable to actually like posting many times a week.
Yeah.
And it's actually been working really well. It's only been like a week and a half that we've been on. Like we've had our meetings for like a month or so.
Yeah.
But we've been on for like a week and a half and it's working really well, especially because like the reality of me paying her money makes it so that like I actually get everything that I'm like want to get done because then I'm just throwing money down the drain.
I can't even remember if we've just talked about this in our own personal conversations or on the podcast. I don't know, but like the power of accountability because you're paying someone is huge.
Oh yeah.
For me, like when I had a virtual assistant back in 2020 when I was launching my presets, that was primarily for the accountability of just like, I'm doing this now because I'm paying someone to help me do it.
Yep.
And I'm not going to let that go to waste. And like we have our own things we're doing together in that respect, that it's like, man, we better make the most of this because we're investing in it. And just, the accountability when you're paying someone is huge.
It's so huge because it's an investment, and like she can only do the work that I'm paying her to do if I do my part. You know, it's like I literally have to record these videos, or she's just going to be sitting there getting paid for doing nothing. Yeah, which like isn't her fault. It's my fault if that's happening.
Right, so exactly.
It's pretty cool. It's cool. And
what's the time investment
for me?
Yeah.
I mean, I recorded a video before I got here, and it took me like 10 minutes.
Wow, nice. And then you just sent that to her and she's
I just send it to her and she edits it.
Wow, amazing.
Because that's the bulk of it is the editing. Like she creates it. I literally just text it to her.
Yeah.
I don't have to have all these fancy folders, yada, yada. Like we have like this online website called Notion that she uses to like keep things organized, but I don't have to upload things there. I can just text them to her. It's like, she's just trying to make it as easy as possible for me. Yeah. And like our busy schedules or whatever it is.
Right.
And yeah, she's in her early 20s. She just has like this big following on TikTok and she's got it. She knows what to do. Yeah. And I'm like, honestly, like the only person that I would hire for this work would be someone who is a Gen Z.
Dude, for like, real.
Literally, because like I'm on the cusp. I'm like
you're a cusper.
96, so I don't know if I'm a Gen Z or millennial. I'm in the middle, zillennial, they say.
Zillennial.
So like I get both sides, but I'm like, honestly, like I have a little bit of a hard time like not cringing at myself when I like create TikTok videos and stuff like that. So it's been helpful to have someone that just like does not care at all. Yep. Which I think is so awesome. So much confidence in that. Again, Gen Z, they have just got the confidence to like take over the world.
I'm very curious what that group of people are gonna do.
Oh my Lord, I know. I'm so curious too. So it's cool to have that perspective that like doesn't allow me to be judgmental of myself. And like I can send something to her and she's even encouraging, like, oh yeah, this is so good, like love this.
Hell
whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm not an idiot.
Yeah. Okay, so you're growing your new is it a new TikTok or your existing one? Primarily for fashion.
Correct.
Fuck yeah.
Yep.
How do you decide? I want to go back because we were talking about personal brand. How do you decide like what your personal brand is and like how do you get it out there? Like is it as simple as just posting pictures of yourself? Like what is it?
It's simple. It's just me putting my interests out there. That's all it is.
Just
like,
being yourself.
Yeah. So I love fashion, and so now I'm gonna like actually create videos that are interesting, that reflect my sense of fashion, the things I'm interested in, which will be, you know, obviously whatever I put out there in the future when I have my own label will reflect those things too. And so if people like the outfits I'm putting together or whatever it is, the videos I'm creating, then they're going to also like what I'm putting out there in the future.
Right.
And then like, you know, I feel like we've done this course in a way on like other podcasters I've heard like say things like this where you're like, what are like what is it, secret sauce, whatever, like what are the things that make you you,
right?
And then using those things, you know, like I've got a family and people love that. Like I have ideas for like how I'm going to incorporate my kids and my wife into like interesting videos, like with me like styling them or whatever it is, stuff that's unique and different that like people can see that I'm still going after the things that I'm interested in, but also using the assets that I have and using my real life to showcase it. And so it's like people aren't just keeping up with my fashion, they're keeping up with my entire life.
People care about people.
Which people care about.
We've talked
so
about
much.
This so much.
Right.
So we've been talking so much lately, and also with drinks, because it was my birthday last week, that I'm like, what have we talked about on the podcast or like in a social setting? And then we've been having more meetings lately. So I'm like, man, what have we talked about where? But this is something that's I've been working on a lot, like in my own life. Like your personal brand is just who you are, and like it doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
No.
And people follow people.
Yes.
People care about people. And it like almost doesn't even matter what you do. If people love you, they're going to follow along.
Yeah.
My most engaged stories are when I post my dogs now, because I got a second one.
Oh, you didn't tell them that.
Did you say you didn't tell me that?
No, tell them that.
Oh, well, we're doing another episode where we're catching up, you know? So that's I'm going to catch everyone up in next week's episode.
To be continued.
To be continued. But yeah, like my most engaged stories are when I post dog content, or lately my date night content.
Yep.
Like showing all the places Nick and I are eating. Like people love that because he's a chef and they care about what he ordered.
Yeah.
Like I had people being like, what did he order for you guys there? And I'm like, well, let me tell you. That is like my most engaged content.
Of course.
And not even my work content. You know, people care about people. They care about what we're up to.
Mm-hmm. And they follow along with you too, you know? Like I already have a big following on TikTok just because of this one video I made, I think 2 years ago now, with me and Michelle, and like, so I have 125,000 followers, and I've done nothing with it for the last couple of years for the most part. Like every so often I would post something, but I've noticed that once I started taking this seriously and people can see that I'm taking it seriously, all of my followers, like that people that already follow me are commenting these things that like act like they've been keeping up with me for the last 2 years.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh shit, like, you've been here?
Whoa.
What? And so they're like, oh wow, and you're in fashion? Like stuff like that, where I'm like, oh, I mean, like I'm new to it, but like,
you say it. I'm in fashion.
I am indeed. That is
I want to get
am.
so much better at social media and my own personal brand stuff. I just like, who has the time?
Well, see, what else can you get rid
hire
of?
Someone.
Well, I hire someone, and I'm got rid of even more, you know, like I'm getting rid of stuff so that like I can actually invest in just like putting my face on the internet, you know. Whoa. Which is hard.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa. Insane.
So those things.
Okay, so you're working on your TikTok, you're working on your personal brand. Are you like, did you meet up with someone in LA and do some photos or something?
Yeah, she's been on the podcast before.
I know. Yeah. I was like, wait, I don't want to like say something you don't want me to say.
So Felicia, we've had her on the podcast before. I shot her wedding last September. Raddest person in the world. Became a good friend, and she is specifically like an editorial and like brand photographer for some high-end like brands and clothing companies and stuff like that in her freaking studio. It's so dope. It's literally like her home. Oh my gosh, Cami, you would like walk into this place and be like, where the hell am I? This is out of control.
I really want to go someday.
It's the one of the most insane living spaces
sick.
I've ever seen in my entire life.
Sick.
It's wild. You would have a field day in Felicia's place.
Oh, I know. It looks incredible.
It's ridiculous.
Wait, so you went up there and what did you do?
We went out. We were just gonna hang out, and then like I was like, honestly, like let's shoot. Like I wanna learn, and she was like, no, I was gonna say the same thing. Like let's shoot.
Fun.
Because this is what she does, and like she pulls out all of her fucking instruments. It was so overwhelming, Cami. Like how much stuff she had to play with as far as like studio stuff went. It was out of control. I was like very overwhelmed. I was like, how can you even remember all this stuff that you have? All of it is cool though. All of it's
like
useful.
What?
Like different backdrops and linens and these mannequins that I found and that were just sitting there, and like just like other like filters and flares and like lights that do different things,
she
and
was
yada
shooting
yada. And she was teaching me how to shoot, and we had another friend of hers that was there with us too, and so we like shot him a little bit, and it was just like she was just like showing me all these things with light that were just like I was just sitting there just like I am what? And like she went to school for photography and then also has been literally doing this for years.
Right.
So she's got all this knowledge. I kept trying to call her like Professor Felicia, but that's really hard to say, Professor Felicia.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. Professor Felicia.
Yeah, because another part of fashion that I'm potentially interested in is obviously like creative direction too, and like set design and like different stuff like that for like brands and stuff. But I think that that's probably on like the back of what I would do. I'm interested in it, but not enough to be as passionate about it as Felicia is. Like this is her life forever, and she loves it and will always love it, and it is incredible. She is a master and will be the master. You know what I mean?
Dude.
So cool. It's so cool. So yeah, that was another example of like, I mean, not to say that I wouldn't just hang out with Felicia, like Felicia and I are friends, and like I love hanging out with her regardless. Like, but it was cool that like I have this friend that is in this industry in a different way that I can be like, oh, like, and she's like, yeah, like, I mean, she lives right in downtown LA in the arts district. She's like, yeah, I just go up to this like fabric shop. They just do recycled fabrics and I just buy whatever I want. And like, I just see something and I like it. And it's like right up the street from me. And I'm like,
dude,
what is this life? It's crazy.
She's so cool.
She's so cool. So yeah, it was just, that was another example of like me just like using the people that I have, that I already have, to like kind of figure some things out for myself. And then like those connections will have other connections. And even like that evening, she's like, hey, I should connect you with this person and this person, like my friends that are in fashion. And I'm like, yeah, like that's exactly what I'm looking for. Like I'm looking for those opportunities to meet people that can point me in the right direction. And again, I don't want to use people. I don't want them to feel like I'm just like having these conversations to like, you know, get anything I can out of them and then like throw them under the bus. But yeah, it's the power of networking. And like, I'm a nice person. Like, so I'm not like, I know that they will appreciate the way that I go about it. So yeah, if you are going to do it, obviously show them some sort of appreciation, show them some sort of way that you can give to them too, which is why I did a shoot of that one girl, for example, because I was like, I know I can get good info out of her. You just reminded me of something I wanted to say. Okay. Most of the people who listen to this are photographers at this point. Yeah. And if any of you photographers out there are trying to break into a new industry or a new market or a new anything, you have to remember that we have a skill everybody wants. Literally. Everyone wants photos. All the time. Like, we have like a bargaining chip, and not exactly what you said, not in a way of like, I want something out of you, but in a way where like, I want something out of you and I have something to give you too. Yeah. So like, we need to remember to not forget that. Right. And like, there's so much knowledge out there, and like free knowledge out there, but in the way like if you really want to like get the most out of the free knowledge that's out there, you also have to be willing to give in return. Totally. Because like I said, like it's not feasible for me to go to fashion school right now. In that aspect, I would be giving my money to learn. So that's very different. Right. But like if I'm going to be looking for information and education for free, like I don't want to ever take advantage of anyone. Right. And people are way more willing to like give it generously if you are also like showing them some sort of respect. Yep. Yeah. I hate, like, it's sometimes it's hard for me to like talk about networking in a way that doesn't feel like politics, you know, like I don't want to feel like I'm just going around like being this politician that's meeting people to see like what I can get out of them, what I can like use them for, and then like never talk to them again. Right. Like that type of stuff drives me insane. But it doesn't have to be that way. No. So just being genuine with people. And I swear every piece of business advice we have on this podcast comes back to just being a good person. Oh yeah. Just like being a good person and like treating people well, and it will come back to you a million times. But okay, so to summarize what you've talked about so far, networking, it seems like it just keeps coming back to networking. Always networking. Working on your personal brand, putting yourself out there in new ways, social media specifically. Yeah. Anything else you're doing to like break into this? Like, how are you learning about this? I mean, I watch a lot of videos and like, you know, different things. Like if I have a thought on something that I want to try, I will pretty much like look into it right away. Okay. so for example, like when it comes to vintage resale, I like saw some video and they were like, oh, you can find a wholesaler. And I was like, a wholesaler? Like, what the hell what are you talking about? Like all these people just find this stuff, like they thrift it, right?
Right.
Apparently not.
Right.
Like there are people that strictly do that. And I know a lot of people that strictly do that. And I still love doing that part. And I think I find like the coolest stuff when I just go out there and like search around.
Totally.
But there's wholesalers out there that you can literally buy from that sell you at a very cheap price. And then they just box a bunch of random stuff up, like according to different categories of like what you're like. I can order a box of 70s pants, you know, and they send me like about 20, and it's all random. Like I'm not picking them out one by one, and I probably won't use every single thing because not all of our are incredible.
Right.
But you get like stuff in it that you're like, oh shit, like that's really dope.
Yeah.
And then it's easier from like for someone like me who like I have bigger dreams and bigger picture things that I want to do after wholesale, or if you have like a big company, like I'm pretty sure I would be surprised if La Loupe didn't do that.
Okay.
Because they have 3 shops, you know,
they
like
have a lot of inventory.
Does that mean that the owner or whoever is sourcing that much stuff all the time? I'd have a hard time believing that.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. I've never really talked to her. I've had like one conversation with her, but the fact that this is out there, again, it's like something that I never would have known unless I were in it.
Right.
And so when I do hear these terms and these things that I don't understand or know, it's just kind of like my cue to like really like learn about them.
Totally.
See if it's something that is going to work for me or not.
Well, and the vintage resale thing, there's so much potential there because like that's how Nasty Gal started.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
She was fucking Sophia Amoruso, or I think is her name. I read Girl Boss back in the day, of course. But she started Nasty Gal, like the original was her reselling stuff she found at vintage stores.
No way.
And it was like a vintage resale she was selling on eBay. She just started selling stuff on eBay. And then that became Nasty Gal.
Yeah, and that's kind of my business model, I guess, is like I'm going to start off creating this kind of sub-brand, and then people will see the stuff that I put out there, and the stuff I advertise is going to be pretty like lined up with what I want to create in the future, and then eventually it'll be like, oh, hey, like I'm dropping a line, and then people will be like, oh, shit, like, I mean, this is what I'm hoping. No, they will be. And and people will be like, oh, shit, like Gabe's always putting out like cool stuff that really matches my vibe.
Yep.
Of course I'm going to like the stuff he makes. So yeah, it's all just like so interesting. I love that I'm getting this new learning experience again, but also it doesn't feel totally new because I'm a business owner and I have multiple businesses. I know how all of that stuff works. And like, it's just a different type of this time. And it's exciting and
so
fun.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So like, what's next?
Next is to get through a couple of busy months with a few weddings I have left.
Okay.
I have like 2 little mini bulk times, so like May, June, and then September, October.
Yeah.
And then
there's the little spring flurry and the little early fall flurry.
And then I'm pretty much done. Like I have a couple more after that and a couple in between, but like it's pretty much nothing.
Yeah.
So this first one, we are going to Ireland in next month, my wife and I, with some friends. So we'll do that 10-day trip. And then after that, the goal is to launch vintage resale brand. And then, while I'm doing that is when I will really start getting into like figuring out, like finding a manufacturer, finding fabric sources and yada, 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 like figure all that stuff out so that I can really start creating.
Cool.
Probably drop a line of like a handful of basic things.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Oh my God, sick. Yeah. But so first and foremost, it sounds like next step is launching the resale. Like this year.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Cool.
By summer. Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Are you like sourcing stuff right now?
Oh yeah. I have like 3 racks.
Okay.
Whole racks. Long, big racks.
What?
Yeah. I know. Is that cool?
Where have you been going?
Everywhere. All over San Diego, dude. San Diego is a pretty legit place to thrift because we aren't LA or San Francisco where like people do this everywhere. Like everyone in LA and San Francisco does this.
Right.
But we're not like, some Hobunk town in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So it's like we've got this big city vibe. A lot of people are here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel the same. And the art community, the creative community here is much smaller. So I don't ever feel like I'm like can't find anything because there aren't that many people that actually do it. here, which is interesting.
Good for you.
Like, I know a lot of them already, you know,
Yeah,
I'm like, I already know a bulk of them.
Right.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
Whereas like everyone is a photographer here. I don't know all the photographers here.
Right. I know you like just started and you feel like you already know all the vintage people here.
I know, which makes sense because it is a more niched industry, I guess,
Right.
but like, it's interesting. It's cool.
Oh. And this is like so exciting because this is such a more like scalable business than wedding photography ever could be.
Totally.
And so I've been thinking about this a lot in my own life. Like we all know, I talk about this all the time, the what's next panic. Because there's like, you know, you can't really scale this unless you're selling products or education, which I've learned is not my passion. So I need to let that go just because that's like the path, you know?
Right.
So you need to move on. The next step is moving on to more scalable businesses.
Yep.
And that's what this is.
Yeah, and I had that thought too. Like, as much, yes, I can keep raising my prices when it comes to weddings, like
but only to a certain
only
point.
to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And then there's only so much you can take on, and I've taken on the max you can take on. You know, like I know what that feels like. That's not worth it to do that much. But then, like, how much am I really going to be charging realistically for weddings? Like, eventually, I don't know. Like, I know that people do, and you could.
Right. I mean, there are a few big names who have done that when you get into like celebrity market and stuff.
But if I can slap my name on a design as a designer, right?
Yeah.
I can pretty much do nothing but design if I want.
Right.
I can if I'm successful,
right.
I can hire everything else out. I can have managers that are running production, that are running sales, running this.
Yep.
I can't do that.
Yep.
With this business because it's about our personal beings
Exactly.
being there.
Correct.
So,
yeah,
it's interesting.
The whole brand relies on us physically being there
Literally.
and showing up.
Yeah.
So, anyways, this is really exciting.
Yeah, it's
I can't
cool.
wait to like keep on catching up about this.
Yes.
And
that's the plan for the podcast. Is like every couple months or so we're gonna like keep up with each other, or every month, and like see how things are going, if we're doing anything new as far as our businesses go, as far as like me with fashion goes. So
which
you guys
is what
are gonna
next
learn a
week's
lot.
episode is.
Yeah.
Next
exactly.
week's, which is funny because we're about to record it right now. This is always so funny.
And we'll get to learn about Cammie's new dog.
Yeah. We'll do like a little catch-up series, which you'll hear next week. You'll hear what we've been up to over the last month.
Yep. Well, I think that's it.
That's
feel
it.
Good?
Yeah,
okay,
that
I feel
was
good.
longer than we meant, but I stopped the timer because we were still going.
Yeah,
you know,
we did good.
Yeah.
Wow, look at us breaking our own rules.
Yeah, it's our podcast.
fine.
We can do what we want.
Exactly.
Okay. Bye.
Bye, everyone.